Today, sexual harassment education is commonplace at workplaces and on campuses. And there's robust dialogue about sexual assault on the internet and social media. But here's a stunning fact. As recently as the early 1990s, there was far less enforcement of sexual harassment law and no national conversation about it. Attitudes in corporate culture were strikingly different than they are today. It was socially acceptable for a male coworker to pressure a female coworker for dates or sexual favors or worse. There was a law on the books. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited sexual discrimination, but it took until 1977 for the first sexual harassment case to be won under that law, and until 1980 for the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to define sexual harassment and begin its enforcement. The game changer, though, came in 1991 after more than 50 million people watched Anita Hill deliver her groundbreaking testimony at the confirmation hearings for Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Hill, an attorney and college professor, worked for Thomas prior to his nomination to the Supreme Court. In the days leading up to his confirmation, she publicly alleged that he had sexually harassed her. Despite Hill's allegations, Thomas's appointment to the court was confirmed by the Senate, and he became a Supreme Court justice. According to a Wall Street Journal NBC News poll at the time of the hearings, registered voters believed Thomas's story over Hill's, 47% to 24%. Just a year later, after women began talking about their own sexual harassment experiences, the same poll found voters believed Hill over Thomas, 44% to 34%. In the wake of the hearings, the number of sexual harassment cases filed with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission doubled. The effect of Hill's testimony at the Thomas hearings could be seen in Washington, D.C., too. 1992 became known as the Year of the Woman. The percentage of women in the House doubled from 5% to 11%, and 4 women, including Carol Moseley Braun, the Senate's first African-American woman, were elected to the Senate. Moseley Braun, along with newly elected California Senator Dianne Feinstein, became the first woman ever to join the Senate Judiciary Committee. The number of women elected to Congress that year was the largest of any single election in United States history. Despite conservative opposition, President George H.W. Bush signed the Civil Rights Act of 1991. The law allowed people to be compensated for damages up to $300,000 in a sexual harassment case. Sexual harassment was now defined as more than just an unwanted touch or threat. It encompassed any unwanted sexual advance. Now that people had a viable and potentially expensive path of recourse, companies as well as government institutions began producing videos for sexual harassment prevention and conducting seminars. Despite these strides made in preventing harassment since Hill's 1991 testimony, harassment of women and men continues in workplaces, on campuses, in the military, and online. According to a 2014 Pew study, young women are twice as likely as young men to be sexually harassed on the internet. The web truly cuts both ways. It has allowed women to come forward and talk about sexual harassment, but ironically, it has also become a space for unwanted advances and violent sexual threats. Though her name may be unfamiliar to young people, Anita Hill's testimony jump-started a nationwide conversation about sexual harassment that is still going on today and has had lasting effects on women over the past 25 years.